What's up, guys? How's it going? My name is Marcus Jose from the Bull Co. You guys are watching our video today. This is my wife, Denise. Say hello.
Hi.
And now today, guys, what we're going to be going over is contracts and, you know, why to do them, how to do them, when to do them, all the time. And the person that I run to when we need to do contracts is my wife here. I do the business side. She does all the behind the scenes type things. Yes. So these are questions that most people send us. Either they're shopping around for a puppy or they're shopping around for a breeder. They may not even be looking to buy a puppy yet. They just want to buy it from a breeder. These are some great questions.
Or questions that people have sent us about our specific contract.
Yes.
And so why they're there. And, you know, we had to explain it to them. But it's just good to get a general overall on what is in a good contract before sending your money in or before even dealing with a buyer.
Yes, exactly. Now, these are some questions that you guys can answer. You can ask. Look for certain type of answers, and these will help you figure out whether or not you want to do business with the breeder you're speaking with. Okay. So the first question is, when you buy a dog from a breeder, why are contracts important?
Well, you know, they're there really to protect both the buyer and the breeder. In terms of the sale contract, a lot of deals happen through phone calls or text, and really it just solidifies it so that everything is in writing. It would outline the responsibility and requirements of the buyer and the breeder before receiving their puppy. But we think that the most important reasons why to have a contract is it really protects the dog for its entire life. There's a lot of things that's in there that protects the dog, the best interest, the health, the welfare, and the overall, you know, just well-being of the dog.
Yes, it also makes you feel more comfortable, right? When you have somebody that you're working with that has a contract, it kind of tells you that they take themselves seriously, thus taking their business and thus taking their dog seriously. And you definitely want to work with somebody who takes themselves seriously. If they're just part-time doing this for shits and giggles, I wouldn't work with them. I really wouldn't. Okay, so in general, why don't you tell them what is in a good contract?
So in a good contract, there should be, I find that there are 5 important key factors. The first part is the deposit or payment schedule. You know, you want to find out before sending your money, is this a non-refundable deposit? But in our case, if you work with the Bull Co., a sales contract is that we give refundable deposits up until 2 weeks before the puppy goes home.
Yes.
We feel like life happens and the number one priority should be taking care of your family.
You and your family, yes.
That's right. And so you want to make sure, if you want to make sure right away before you send money, is your money, your refund, is it going to be, your deposit going to be refundable or non-refundable, and at what point? Also, did you come up with a payment schedule with the breeder, you know, specifically outlining, you know, the dates when your first payment? And to have peace of mind for everybody, it should also state that everything should be paid in full before receiving the puppy in your home, you know, just for the peace of mind. Number two, the obligations of the breeder. You know, so number one that they should be obligated to give the buyer is the health history of the puppy. Things says what shots were given, what milestones, and you know, such as when milestones that the puppy hit, such as when they walked, when they got weaned, introduced to solid foods,
teeth broken out their gums,
when they opened their eyes, those kinds of things, and some kind of statement on a health guarantee of genetic diseases. So it should say something like
free from genetic diseases.
Right. You should have a certain amount of days to, the buyer should have a certain amount of days to take their dog to a vet and to check for everything. So within those certain amount of days, the breeder can either take the dog back if there is a something wrong. So that should be an obligation that is stated in the contract. Also, we've heard of lots of horror stories where puppy registration papers did not come in. They came a year later when the dog is a year old. So really,
if you get them at all.
If you get them at all. Really, it is the responsibility of the breeder to have all that paperwork ready when the puppy goes home. You should be also receiving a temporary registration number to to register your puppy to whatever registry, ABKC, AKC, whatever. You should already have that, because that means that the litter has already been registered. The breeder has received the stud signatures. All signatures are set in place, and the litter is litter registered.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Okay.
All right.
Number
3.
Okay. Number 3. The obligations in the that the buyer has should also be stated in the contract. Things like aftercare of the puppy. You have a certain amount of days to take your puppy to the vet to check for, for genetic diseases. You also have the responsibility to continue with immunizations for your puppy, the next puppy shots, rabies, microchipping, and things such as ethical breeding statements. So sometimes the breeder wants the buyer to not breed their dog at a certain age.
Which would be a pet home.
Or a pet home, or the dog shall not be studded at a year old, or think something that
ethical breeding statements, basically, right?
Right. That the buyer must be obligated to do to be ethical.
Yeah, and these are things that breeders put in there to make sure that their breeding stock, their show dogs that they've sold, don't be used incorrectly, right? As a breeder, we have an obligation to not only create the best dog for our clients, but also make sure that our clients are not misusing our products as well, which would be our dog. Number 4.
Number 4 is that these are actually 4 and 5, I would say, would be the most important key clauses in a contract. So the abuse and neglect clause, abuse and neglect clause.
Yes.
That should be in the contract. And I'm going to read this word for word because it should be. Most of them are stated in such a way. So it should say something like, "For the life of this dog, buyer will not abuse or neglect the care of this puppy. At any time the breeder believes the dog is abused or neglected, he or she has the right to repossess, the right of reclamation, the dog, and if the buyer agrees not to seek legal damages against the breeder or cause the breeder legal expenses." So again, it goes back to the welfare of the dog when you have a clause like that. Again, it's a scary statement. We've actually gotten questioned on it.
Yeah.
Well, does that mean if you
take the dog back whenever you want?
Right.
Yeah.
And can you just take the dog? No, that means
No.
that there is legal evidence such as animal control reports,
Pictures, videos of neglect, stuff like that.
and that clause allows the breeder to take the buyer to court to reclaim the dog, because in the state of California, dogs are considered property.
Yes.
But when you have a clause like that, then we have a lot of animal laws in California, so that way we can reclaim the dog. Again, it goes back to the welfare of the dog.
Yeah.
And the last and also important, and I'm going to read it word for word because it should say something like this. When working with a good breeder, this should be in the contract. It's called the right to know and placement clause. And I'm going to read it just word for word. For the life of this dog, the buyer will let the breeder know where the dog lives. For the life of this dog, the buyer will not rehome, sell, or give this dog away to anyone without the prior knowledge of the breeder. And for the life of this dog, if a buyer cannot keep this dog, the buyer will return the dog to the breeder without a refund. Breeder may request monthly updates or pictures of the dog either directly or through social media to ensure that the welfare of the puppy is that the puppy's healthy and growing appropriately. Now, again, that's a scary thing when you are working with a contract, because it means like, oh my gosh,
You have to do this.
does the breeder just take the dog away?
Yeah, you have to agree to do this, for sure.
And it's not really. We have it in ours because we feel like we have the responsibility of whether you get a puppy from 6 weeks to 10 years old, and it's just we take pride in the production.
Every single one.
So that's there because what happens is, if the puppy or the dog gets rehomed over and over, it can get lost in the system and eventually end up either in a rescue or in a pound. And there's no way we would want any of our puppies that we've produced to end up in a rescue or the pound.
Yeah, so here's the thing about that. I believe that were it not for me doing this breeding, this dog and that dog would have never had puppies together. So since I took that into my own hands to do, I have a responsibility to make sure that these dogs, as puppies, as adults, as old dogs, are taken care of for the rest of their life. And I believe that every single breeder should have something like this, if not this, in their contract. Not just no, it isn't just a goodwill thing like, hey, if you can if you can't take care of the dog, you can, bring the dog back. No. It needs to be in the contract stating that if you can't take care of the dog, you cannot sell or rehome or give up to anybody else but to us.
And it's
that's the
not
truth.
because we make a profit out of it.
No, absolutely not.
Because we'll take a dog that we've produced 10 years old and sick or disabled.
Yep.
We will take that dog back and rehome it appropriately, either with us or with somebody else.
With somebody who can take care of the dog, who's going to love the dog for the dog.
Right. And so I think those two last main clauses would be the most important in a contract. And not because the breeder is going to want to take your dog whenever and however, but it's really there to protect the welfare of the dog in its entire life.
So the next question is, what advice would you give buyers on contracts?
Well, all the horror stories that we've heard is do not send money without the execution of a contract.
Something written, documented, and
Yes.
signed, notarized or online, DocuSign. You need to have those signatures for sure.
Right, because what can happen is if your agreements or your, whatever you worked out with the breeder is not written and not notarized or not DocuSign, you guys don't have an even playing ground.
Yeah.
What they could do is once they have your money, they could, I changed my mind. This puppy's actually worth this much.
Yeah.
I need more from you. Or, the puppy that you actually want, that's the one I actually want to keep.
So
So
I'm gonna
you
keep
get
that
this
one.
one. And so with a contract, you have both parties are protected so that doesn't happen. Or if you had reserved this puppy and the buyer's like, oh, I changed my mind and it's the day before the puppy goes home, you've already executed your contract, both have signed to it and agreed upon it, then there's no legal standing for either party.
You basically have to take one for the team or you get your money took. And that's the truth if you don't follow what we're telling you guys to do now. We're just making sure that you guys are safe out there buying from people because not everybody's as nice as us. Now, what are the advice you would give breeders that don't have contracts right now that are going to watch this video that are going to start doing contracts?
Have one. Have one.
Yeah.
So that way you don't get also in the predicament where your texts are blasted on social media because he said, she said, because it sounds good at the moment, but when it comes down to the actual transaction, if nothing is written down, then, everybody's in a bad place.
Yeah.
Also take the time to it's not very hard to do your research if you're a breeder and find generic contracts out there from AKC, breeders or other ABKC breeders.
UKC,
It's not very hard, and you could just edit it to your liking or to your, whatever you negotiated with your buyer. You also, breeders need to match themselves wisely with their buyers because no contract in the world is going to make an asshole buyer less of an asshole.
Yeah.
So you gotta align yourself with that. So even though things are written, no contract is going to change the facts. So you really gotta choose wisely on who you work with, regardless whether you have the best contract in the world or not.
Yeah, and that actually comes back to a lot because on both sides, what we've done, buyers and sellers, breeders and and customers, we don't work with people who are assholes. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the nicest dog in the world. I can get that somewhere else if you want to be about it, right? So, that really goes for new breeders, man. Have a contract, but make sure you're matching with your style and who you like to work with, because ultimately these are people who are going to be consistently contacting you.
There's also contracts that have co-owns. We highly discourage just co-owns because it's, when you get in a contract, it's a long-term relationship, and when you co-own with somebody, that's like a marriage.
Yeah.
Things can sour over time, and you gotta ask fast.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, now are you only not willing to lose a profit, but are you also willing to lose friendships?
Friendship, your family.
Right.
Yeah.
So, going into a contract, know that it is a long-term thing. But here's also, we're going to end it in a good note, because here's also the beauty of a contract. When contracts and, the breeder and the buyer, when everything aligns, you really build yourself a network. A small community. Many of the people that we've worked with that have become our clients, either through Marcus's training, he has a contract for those too, or they have bought a puppy from him. They've become basically our family friends, and so that can be the beauty of a contract too, because we don't put ourselves in that kind of situation. Everything is written. There's a basis of our communication, what is agreed upon, what is our expectation.
Yes.
And that is also the beauty of a contract, because not only you're building yourself a network, a community, but those people become your family friends, and that's how.
And people who actually understand what you're talking about, because over time, if they're buying from you, that means that they either want to be in the community or want something to do with these type of dogs. And they're going to do their own research, and when you talk to them and you start using lingo like, confirmation and show and stack and stuff like that, they'll understand what you're talking about, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. One thing we didn't go over, though, is what types of contracts are there?
Oh, there's lots of different contracts. There are co-own contracts, which we highly discourage.
Yeah, because, seriously, that's literally the only thing I ever see on social media is how a co-own went bad.
Right. There are stud contracts. So if you're providing that service, you don't just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Let me know.
We'll show up.
Yeah.
Or mail it.
It's in the mail.
Oh, but then I want a puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure if you're providing the service of a stud, you have a
this
stud
is a pup
client.
bag deal. Like we're talking about. Yeah.
There's also pet home. So it's not exact. It's a puppy sales contract, but the companion pet home contract would state
no breeder rights.
No breeding
That's
rights.
it. Yeah. Basically, no breeder rights.
Right.
The dog.
And then
And fixing the dog.
That's right. There's a timeline on there when the dog should fix, and I believe that is it.
In regular sales,
in regular
adult
puppy
sales, stuff like that. Like I have contracts for my training, stuff like that. Show handling. Show handling is not really a contract because it's only a couple $100 anyways. But you could do it if you were like a really good handler booked out 5-6 months, right? So I guess.
Right. So those is just so everybody is on an even playing field. Everybody's expectations is met. Everybody's, what is everybody's obligations? Everything is lined up. And so that way you kind of cut yourself out of a headache or a problem to arise later in the future.
Gotcha. Well, guys, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed our video and our little discussion on contracts. I hope.
Follow me.
What's your Instagram?
At Mrs. The Bull Cat.
Shameless plug there. If you guys aren't already, please subscribe to our YouTube. If you haven't already as well, go to our Instagram at thebullco.com. You're going to see all of our puppies, production videos. We do a lot of entertainment on there. If you have any questions, and if you have any questions or any comments at all, please leave a like. Please leave a comment down below for our next video, and we'll see you guys soon. You guys take care.
Hi.